name is Paul Lawton. I'm running for the People's Party of Canada in Peterborough-Kawartha. I'm a Peterborough resident. I've lived here since moving to Peterborough. So I grew up in Mississauga, moved to Peterborough in 2003 to attend Trent University, graduated in 2008, and I've lived here full-time since then. I've worked for the same company for 14 years, actually. I started as a summer job at a local company here, and I'm still with the same company 14 years later. PPC, People's Party of Canada, we're a new party, obviously. We were formed just before the last election in 2019. Our party would not exist if we didn't have to. I wish that the PPC didn't have to exist and that I didn't have to run in this election. It's never been a particular ambition of mine. It's not a good career move for me necessarily, but it's out of necessity. So our concern was, at the time that the party was founded, and even more so now, that Canadians really don't have a distinct choice between, let's say, the two largest parties, between the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party of Canada. And so our party was founded, and in this election, are running on some very basic and important principles that the other parties are ignoring. Usually I ask at an event, does anybody know what the federal debt is currently? No Googling, does anybody know? And usually, 1 out of 100 people will know. It's about $1.4 trillion at the moment, and it's growing. I actually think it's a profoundly moral concern. It's not just an accounting problem. It's a moral issue that we leave that kind of debt for future generations. So freedom from federal debt, and then secondly, freedom from mandatory vaccines and vaccine passports. So I'm not personally, and the party is not anti-vax. We are in favor of privacy, of informed consent. It seems, frankly, it seems obvious to me and to a lot of our supporters that taking a vaccine or not, to be able to have a job, to be able to participate in society, should be voluntary. And the government should not be coercing citizens to do it. Obviously, this is a campaign issue. This is a platform issue for us. Let's say COVID-19 and all of the surrounding concerns. The first thing to say is that many of the rules, mandates, guidelines are provincial, right? Insofar as we oppose lockdowns, mandatory vaccines, vaccine passports, I don't want to give anybody the false impression that an MP, a member of federal parliament, can necessarily stop provinces from doing those things, right? One of our principles as a party is actually the federal government should really only deal with things that are outlined in the Constitution that the federal government should deal with. We want the most power possible at the most local level possible. If provincial governments are failing to uphold or even violating the Constitution, then it is up to the federal government to hold them to account. When we talk about economics, how can we recover from the impact that, let's say, the impact that COVID has had generally, lockdowns and other things. One of the things that I appreciate most about our platform is a very simple and very deep-seated belief that we should curb spending at the federal level, that we should pay off the federal debt, and then we should proceed to lower taxes. We're not promising billions of dollars of new spending like the Conservative Party, the Liberal Party are doing, reducing the bureaucracy and allowing businesses to do what they do best. That's how an economy recovers, grows, by the federal government actually getting out of the way, as opposed to the federal government trying to pull levers and manipulate things in a certain way, taxing one area, subsidizing another. We're talking about housing. Sometimes I get asked the question particular to rentals, particular to Buying housing, obviously those two markets are related, right? As the cost of buying new homes goes up, so does the cost of rent. It should not be, it is not the place of the federal government to directly interfere in the housing market. For the federal government to plan to build houses themselves, or to over subsidize buying new houses. There are a couple of things that would actually help. So one is to substantially reduce immigration quotas. So currently immigration quota is about 400,000 per year. We would reduce that down to 100 to 150,000 per year. So that will reduce demand. But the biggest thing that the government can do is get out of the way and make it easier for builders to build houses, right? How much of the cost of a new house goes into zoning and building codes and those kinds of things versus the material? Now, again, a lot of that is at the provincial municipal level. People's Party government would withdraw from the Paris Accord. We would abandon the unrealistic greenhouse gas emission targets that are a part of that. We would stop the foreign aid that's sent specifically to help developing countries reduce their emissions. So we spend billions of dollars per year to do that. We would abolish the carbon tax. However, like I said, the federal government is not in a position to forbid the provinces from having a carbon tax. We would abolish the federal carbon tax. Would a PPC government, say, commit to fighting climate change globally as a global citizen, as an example to other nations? No. The current targets that we're committed to are unrealistic and only serve to harm our own economy, really harm our own citizens. And we're not embarrassed to say that Canada's federal government should put the interests of Canadians first, not necessarily exclusively or to the detriment of other countries, but should put our own priorities first. If we look at the numbers, as far as I understand them, Canada commits a tiny fraction to global emissions, right? So whether we hurt our economy in order to meet targets or not, it's going to have a negligible impact on worldwide emissions. Abolish the subsidies that we see periodically for green technologies. We would want to leave it up to private corporations to develop ways to reduce pollution, reduce emissions, and let the market sort that out. This election really is a referendum on freedom. I didn't think we would be in a position where that would ever need to be said about a Canadian election. But I really do think that's the case in this election. That's why I'm running. That's why we would ask Peterborough-Kawartha to vote for the PPC, to read our platform, have a look, because there are some fundamental freedoms that we have lost or are losing very quickly, and we want to be able to retain those.